Casio watches don't spring to mind when thinking about something that tracks your running from the wrist, but the DW H5600 is an exception. While it's not designed to compete with high-end GPS running watches, it does offer some solid tracking features for casual runners. I'll post a link to my full review of the device below. In this video, I'm simply focusing on its run tracking ability. Now, sports tracking on the DW H5600 is fairly simple. It supports 4 activities: running, walking, gym workouts, and interval training. That's half of what you get on the more advanced GBD H2000, but it still covers the basics for most people. Now, one of the biggest trade-offs with this Casio is GPS. The DW H5600 doesn't have built-in GPS, but instead relies on connected GPS from your phone's GPS through the Casio app. Now, I tested this in the dense streets of central London, and it actually performed well. Quick to connect and surprisingly accurate, even with tall buildings around. Of course, accuracy depends on your phone's GPS signal, but in my experience, the connected GPS worked reliably. The connection was stable, and as you'll see later on, the tracking was accurate. Now, the same applies to heart rate monitoring. The optical sensor on the DW H5600 did a good job as long as the strap was tightened properly. So I have to admit, on the first couple of runs, there was a bit of an issue, but as soon as I tightened it so that it was snug against my wrist, it performed really well. Actually, the readings were close to those from my Scotia Rhythm chest strap, which I paired with my Garmin watch. Both max and average heart rate numbers lined up well, which is impressive for a Casio watch. I mean, they're not really known for their sports tracking abilities. Now, I should note that the DW H5600 doesn't support external chest straps or N+, so you're limited to its built-in sensor. So that's something to be aware of. So what do the actual numbers say? Well, this is an example from a 11-kilometer run through central London. On the left side is the Casio watch app. On the right-hand side is the Garmin data. Now, I have to admit, I'm not a huge fan of the Casio watch app, and it does take some getting used to. But as you can see, the Casio measured the distance within 30 meters of my Garmin Forerunner 955, which is a pretty solid result. Heart rate accuracy was also good, an average of 147 beats per minute and a max of 163 beats per minute on the Casio, compared to 147 beats per minute and 162 beats per minute respectively on the Garmin connected with the chest strap. So those were almost entirely on par. So you could say that while the DW H5600 isn't designed to replace a dedicated running watch like the Forerunner 955, it still offers solid tracking for those who want a durable everyday watch that can also handle the occasional run. Of course, you're not going to get as detailed performance stats as you get on the Garmin, far from it, but you do get the basics. And that's not really something that you'd expect from a Casio watch. Now, some negatives about this device. Actually, it has a 4-button layout, 2 on the left and 2 on the right. And I have to say they are a bit difficult to operate. You really have to press them, and I did struggle at times. And it also takes some getting used to that button layout. The other thing that I didn't really like is the display. While it is MIP, like on the Garmin Forerunner 955, which is a positive for me, it's small. So if you're running, it's a bit difficult to read your stats on the go. So those are some limitations to be aware of. So clearly, it's not. I mean, if you're a hardcore runner, you're probably going to want something that's more user-friendly. But for everybody else, the device does the job. The most important things are that the heart rate monitor and the GPS work well, and they're both accurate. Now, this is the first Casio G-Shock I reviewed, so it was a learning experience for me, and I can see why they have such a strong following. I mean, it's a bit like Marmite. You either love it or you don't. Some people appreciate the toughness and bold design, and many of them rely on them for this durability, while others wear them purely for the style and simplicity. Also worth noting is that some of the features are powered by Polar's algorithms. including some run tracking stats, and also you get very, very detailed sleep tracking stats. As mentioned, the Casio Watches app is not that great, and there is a bit of a learning curve when using it. And also there is a lack of integration with Apple Health or Google Fit, which is something else worth noting. But you do get Strava compatibility. On the smart side, the watch covers the basics with notifications, automatic time updates, and a phone finder. Battery life is pretty good, and there's actually solar-assisted charging, which helps to stretch out time between recharges. And you wouldn't really know that this watch has solar capabilities by looking at it. Sony is much better at hiding the tech than Garmin. So all in all, this is a decent little device. If you don't want a sports watch or a fully fledged smartwatch, and you just want something that's tough, stylish, and functional, the DW H5600 might hit that sweet spot for you.